Yes, so our project is trying to raise money for pitch maintenance equipment. Essentially, we have a sports club that includes a cricket pitch and a football pitch on the same plot of land. Up until now, our hard-working groundsman has continued to maintain it with machinery invented in the 1800s, which has led to, it just takes him a very long time. And it was initially, we needed to do something about it because we had a ride-on mower that, straight off of the Henry Ford product line that coughed up its last, we couldn't do it. We had to scrap it. We're left with like I say, a cricket pitch and a football pitch and the surrounding grass areas that just, now we're having to beg, borrow and steal bits and pieces of equipment, quad bikes from the village. I should add, we live in a village that's in the Yorkshire, just below the beginning of the Yorkshire Dales. And so it's a lot of grass farming land around here, and a lot of it's very rural. So there is equipment to be had at the drop of a hat. Everyone knows everyone, and so on and so forth. But it's not obviously a sustainable practice because he needs to be working on things every day. So we decided to apply for a grant for it, and that's what led us here.
Is that what kind of led you to crowdfunding then? You mentioned that you went to apply for a grant in the first instance. I'm assuming, was that with Sport England?
Yes, that's correct. So initially our groundsman talked to Sport England, and they said that we would need to match fund it, and they said to use crowdfunding. So yes, we said okay, we'll use. So that's what we did. We set it up. That's when I wasn't involved in the initial conversations about it, but eventually it found its way to me because I'm the resident person who knows how to switch on a computer. So it was basically I set it all up with crowdfunder and went from there.
Amazing. And you did really well. You obviously raised a huge chunk of money, and some of that was supported by Sport England as well, with some of their kind of pledging towards your total. Did you notice anything else other than kind of that financial raise through running a crowdfunding campaign? Sometimes we see that might be kind of conversations with local businesses or sponsorship opportunities, maybe increased awareness of the club. It might even be kind of leveraging funds elsewhere. Were you able to see any other benefits than hitting that target?
Well, I think I think we definitely did. I mean, there's sort of two sides to it, or two aspects to it, really. The first is like the general kind of involvement with people in the village. It's about 2,500 people in the village. It's not a huge one, but they really came together. I mean, there was so many donations, and there were small donations in mostly, but every penny counts. And there was, with the money the way it is, it's great that anyone can afford anything. So. Just to give something to help us with that. So there was, but also as a result, people started getting into people that they knew, that local businesses or businesses in the wider sort of North Yorkshire area or West Yorkshire area. People knowing people and saying, "Hey, you want to donate to this?" That kind of thing. We ran events as well. Like we had pub quizzes where we raised money for it. I left leaflets on the table with QR codes so they could go straight to. I'd also scan that now and donate right this minute while they're drinking. It was much easier to squeeze more money out of them. So that did well. We did offline stuff that we would then just put the money into the crowdfunding as a bulk kind of thing. But going back to the businesses thing, we were able to at the same time make them aware of other sponsorship opportunities for the club in general, and quite a few of them actually took those up. So those companies that we'd never even talked to before were suddenly handing over decent chunks of money, in 4 figures, to here's some donation, and also I'd like to sponsor the first team kit or buy a pitch side board, or what I mean, those sort of opportunities. So I think in the course of it, in doing this, there's definitely been a lot of awareness. Not so much maybe the village, because maybe because we already run events. We have a festival we run on the football pitch supposed to be every year, but we didn't have the bandwidth this year. We're too busy with this. Definitely from like businesses local and further afield that suddenly saw that this was something maybe they could help out with, and those are now hopefully ongoing relationships as a result. Having a platform like crowdfunder to do this through just made that process like infinitely easier. I can imagine having to do all this with spreadsheets and begging and borrowing and just, but having a sort of like being able to put out social posts all the time saying, like, help us out with this, please help us out with this, or even be able to like face to face say, oh, help us out, here's the link, that kind of thing. It's having that platform is like, it makes things just so much easier to do it. So I think we, if we'd have had to do this without a crowdfunding platform like yours, we probably wouldn't have made it. I don't think we'd have done it.
That's lovely to hear. We do try and make it as straightforward as possible for you guys. And I think it's that thing, isn't it? Like you say, of having everything there for a potential supporter to access. It's quite easy to put, your QR code on your leaflet to then put out in the pub or be able to share a link with somebody rather than having to kind of take them to maybe different parts of a website or, saying the same story over and over again. So that's really good to hear.
It looks more legit as well. It kind of like makes it much more legitimate because, it's too easy to scam these days with the way the internet is. So this gives it that kind of legitimacy as well, that people are sort of feel confident in in being able to put money in.
That's a really, really valid point. And you mentioned as well when we spoke earlier that you were able to access some more funding. Was that through the crowdfunder? Was that through those businesses, or was that through another grant that you were able to kind of utilize the crowdfunder?
So it's kind of like this whole thing has actually been getting from A to B through steps. The goal was to actually access a much larger grant than the Sports England one. I think I won't say how much it was, but it was a 5-figure grant, quite a high 5-figure grant. That required a 25% match from us. Now, in order to make that, it's still a big chunk of money considering we don't even charge people to come in and watch the games. It's free to watch, and we run everything off sponsorships, and that covers our just running costs, of a grassroots sports club. Which is why so many suffer. I think so many struggle because there's so many costs, and no way of only using sponsorship to claw it back. So it's a challenge. Although I would say we've been going over 100 years, so we managed to only stopping for COVID and the occasional war. So it's we've done all right. But what we need to make about 12 grand to sort of make that money. So we thought, okay, we can get 6+ from Sport England, which we have to match to get the grant. That will give us the 12 that we need to then put in to the bigger grant. So it was kind of like, this brings this, then that brings that, if that makes sense. We had to build it. It's like building it up to this end of it. So that's what we did. And we've been successful. We're just waiting for the payout for the big grant. And we've got the new tractor and the rollers and all the bits and the line markers and all that sort of thing, all on order, ready to ship as soon as the money comes into the account. So I can't tell you how happy our groundsman is. It's like, he's so pleased. Because it's just a hassle. And bear in mind, we're all volunteers as well. Yeah. This is a non-profit grassroots community club. So every single one of us is volunteering. We all got to work full time as well.
But that's amazing. And I think that's something that is a really good message, actually, and something that we do try and get across is that the crowdfunding campaign can be a smaller part of a much bigger picture. Sometimes I think people feel if they're going to be crowdfunding, it needs to be for the total amount, and that could feel overwhelming to try and get that from the local community, understandably. But actually, just in your case, breaking it down and thinking kind of strategically about, well, actually, if we were to kind of do this crowdfunding campaign that will potentially be matched with some, you know, support from Sport England over here, that will then potentially leverage that match fund that we need to be able to provide over here. So it is a process, but understanding that it can play a smaller part of a much bigger picture sometimes, even if it's something that happens in phases or happens as part of a bigger kind of funding process.
I would say to anyone who is thinking of, you know, doing or needs to raise money for these things, like kind of what you just said, is like, don't worry about the big thing, the big number. Start here, because it does build. And we at all times felt like we didn't really stress that we weren't going to be able to pull this off, because we thought we can pull this off, because we only had to focus on raising X amount, not thousands, you know, not 5 figures. We just needed to get this bit done, and then that knocks onto everything else. So if you're doing it like that, which I, you know, highly advise is the way to go, build, you know, use crowdfunding to match a smaller grant, which then use to match a bigger grant, and you can get all those ducks in a row. All you got to really worry about is this little bit, you know, and it's easily achieved.
And the thing is that principle is spot on. So even if, you know, it's not part of a bigger picture, and actually your target is the amount that, yes, in your crowdfunding campaign target is the amount that you need to be able to completely deliver upon your project or buy that piece of equipment, breaking it down into more achievable milestones and goals throughout the campaign is a great way to look at it as well, because it does make it more palatable for yourselves as project owners and your supporters. If you're going out and saying, well, we need to hit this bit this week or today or whatever it might be, and then you go back out with that message of, that's amazing, now we just need to push for this next bit and then this next bit, rather
if
than
you try to look at the big thing, you'll go nuts.
and it's just it can be quite daunting, and that goes for your supporters as well. You know, that can be a bit overwhelming for them to look at and think, wow, you know, my £10 isn't really going to help here, but actually that £10 will help with that much smaller milestone, and then somebody else's will help towards the next one. So yeah, that's a really good way to look at it, I guess. Ultimately, this is my final question, Carlo, thank you for joining me. Would you do it again, given your success on your last one?
Yeah, I mean, yes, absolutely. It's been a very simple process. It's been you know, very much you know, for the most part, very user friendly, and obviously it's worked. So there's no actual, you know, I can't think why not. I think you got to do it for a couple of cuts. You got to do it sparingly, because you can't keep asking. People get fed up with us constantly asking for money, you know, like constantly going around with a hat. But yeah, if we had to do it again, I mean, this is certainly the way to do it. I can't imagine doing it any other way, to be honest.